The San Francisco 49ers were rolling. Everyone agreed they were the best team in the league. Brock Purdy was the MVP favorite, and then they ran into a Baltimore Ravens buzzsaw on Monday night, 33-19. The final, Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions. Sam Darnold came in and threw a pick of his own, though did throw a touchdown as well. And now the 49ers are going to have to play out the rest of these final 2 games to try and secure that top seed in the NFC playoff picture. Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers joins me now. And Croc, this was a week where the Ravens said we should not be underdogs. They went out and proved it. What is your concern level coming out of this game?
Not concerned at all with how I feel about the 49ers. This hasn't really changed anything. I've had one big question mark really throughout this year. If the 49ers get down in the game, how do they respond? And can they pull off a win in that fashion? And so far, if there is any concern, it's their inability to play from behind late in games. So they had an opportunity against the Cleveland Browns where you had a potential game-winning drive, kicked the field goal, missed it. After that, you lost 2 more games in a row, one in Minnesota where you could not overcome that late game deficit. You had multiple drives to do it, could not do it. Part of it might have been because Brock Purdy was concussed, but nonetheless, you turned it over 2 times in a row to close out that game. And then the very next week against Cleveland, you had several opportunities late to get back into that game and overcome a 1-score deficit. And all they did was turn the ball over 3 times in the second half and really make it impossible to come back. And then we saw that same thing against the Baltimore Ravens. So my co-host, Brian Peacock, he calls the 49ers the ultimate front runners. If they get out on you, they're like a snake. They will just squeeze the life out of you and really run up the score. But when they have to play from behind, that has been a big concern of mine.
What's crazy is if you look at some of the underlying numbers, you go on a per play basis, the 49ers actually outplayed the Ravens. It was 6.3 yards per play to 5.4. 49ers, 429 yards of offense. They just couldn't stop turning the ball over. And I guess those count, right? Like the turnovers count because they lead to Ravens points and all of those things. But it does seem like this offense, as long as they don't turn the ball over, they're still a buzzsaw.
And that's what we've seen even in the games against Minnesota, the game against the Cincinnati Bengals. They actually were fine. Like a lot of people wanted to jump on Brock Purdy for those games. Like, see, 49ers lost. And you look at his numbers and how well he played for 90% of the game. He was the same Brock Purdy that was an MVP favorite. But then towards the end of the game, he turned the ball over. In the Baltimore game, the turnover started early and often, and he wasn't able to overcome that. But yeah, more times than not, you look at the weapons the 49ers have, I think it's hard to play poorly with those guys surrounding you, and especially with Kyle Shanahan pulling the strings. So typically the yards per play and all these other metrics you want to look at, the 49ers are going to be top of the league really in every single game.
This does, though, Croc, make me feel a little bit reminiscent of me talking to Landon McCool the other day from Locked On Cowboys, and he was like, yeah, the Cowboys have trouble winning on the road, and they have this issue of beating good teams. And it's like, well, in the playoffs, the Cowboys are going to have to go on the road and they're going to have to beat good teams. The 49ers could potentially face a similar issue in the playoffs where a team, they might go out 10-0, a ball bounces a weird way, you get a kick return, something like that. So what is going to be the fix if they do go down and in the second half they got to make up a 10-point deficit or something like that?
If they are going to go down, just go down early in the game. Again, my biggest issue with them is the late game, because even in this game, you had several opportunities to come back. You turned the ball over 3 times in the first half, and you're down 12-16. Like, that's a really close game. Yeah. And late in the game, the later it got, the more it was like, we're not really built to come back. So I don't know if this is Kyle Shanahan's offense. He doesn't have a true drop back passing game. Everything's predicated off of the threat of a run or run action, play action, and that sets everything up. Does the offensive line, who plays well within the scheme, but if you get outside of that and make them have to be just straight pass blocking offensive linemen, they are not good at that outside of Trent Williams. Maybe that's an issue. And if that is the case, that stuff ain't changing anytime soon. So I guess the answer is Don't fall behind in the playoffs.
Stay up to date all year on the San Francisco 49ers by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On 49ers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube.